Good morning. Welcome to Little River United Church of Christ. We are an open and affirming congregation where no matter who you are or where you are on life's journey, you are welcome here. Got to do a shout out this morning for our bell choir. What a wonderful, wonderful way to start our service together this morning. For those of you who are worshiping with us here in the sanctuary, we would ask you to sign the red fellowship pad. It's located in front of you or near you, perhaps toward the end of the aisle area. We would like for you to sign in, let us know that you're with us this morning. And after you've signed in, please pass it to your neighbor so that your neighbor can also sign in. We're continuing the search process of hiring a settled pastor. The search committee members are exploring ways to have an extravagant welcome for when they arrive. And one of the ways for a new pastor to get acquainted with members of the congregation and become familiar with all the beautiful faces who are gathered here is to have a current photograph portfolio. So today, and some of you, how many of you already had your picture taken? Great, let's make it 100% because Dan, you have your camera ready? Good job. We want to make sure that we have your photograph and your pictures. The opportunity is available. And so later this month and in January, if you're not able to have a photograph taken today. For those worshiping online, you may not have an opportunity to be at church, but please, we request that you send us a photograph to the church office, that it will be included in the photo portfolio directory. The Little River Board of Outreach and Social Justice, Boss J, is pleased to share that holiday bags of seasonal vegetables, jams, honey, and desserts are available for sale through the Black Church Food Security Network and their Soil to Sanctuary initiative. Please check the church communication on the different purchase options and how members of the congregation can reserve holiday bags. The deadline for ordering will be December 14th. The holiday bags will be available for pickup here at Little River by December 18th. The Black Church Food Security Network is a network of black churches organized to advance health, wealth, and power to people in their communities. The Board of Deacons invites members and friends of the congregation to assist with hybrid worship by volunteering to be a liturgist, usher, online greeter, prayer note taker, or recorder on Sunday mornings during our worship service. Some of the volunteer positions are in person and also can be done online. You can sign up through the Sign Up Genius. The Sign Up Genius link can be found in the church communication. Also, this morning, we want to remind you that we will have our Christmas Eve service here at Little River. It starts at 6:30 p.m. We will be here in the sanctuary and online. So we hope that you will be with us and share the celebration of Jesus' birth, Christmas Eve at 6:30. Those are our announcements for this morning. Let us now be in worship together.
Over 100 people from the ages of 2 to 80 years old were asked the question, "What brings you joy?" From the voices of different generations, hear their answers.
A clean kitchen.
Sand between my toes.
Being outside.
Sleeping in my own bed after a night away.
Having a camera in my hand.
My friends laugh.
Mountain air.
End of my to-do list.
Baby giggles.
Hugs from my sister.
My cat. Putting my hands in the garden.
Accord resolved.
Stargazing.
Bedtime books. A warm cup of coffee with friends.
My new pet.
Lingering at the table after dinner.
Time with family.
Today we light the candle of joy. May its light remind us all of the good news this season brings. May its light remind us of the many sources of our joy in our lives. And may that joy not only draw us closer to one another, but closer to God. Family of faith, what brings you joy? Amen.
Please join me for the call to worship. Our souls magnify the Lord. Our spirits rejoice in God our Savior. We come today with eager hope, awaiting God's new revelation. The Mighty One has done great things. God's mercy covers generations. We come today with ready peace, trusting with anticipation. The one who lifted up the lowly and filled the hungry dwells with us. We come today with fervent joy. We worship with great expectation. Let us pray. God of Mary, Ruth, Bathsheba, and Rahab, God of all your children here and your children afar, we enter this moment of worship with eager anticipation. We know that even before a child would come to lead the way, you were leading our way. From the valleys of the shadows of death to the tables in the presence of our enemies, you have never left us or forsaken us. Your rod and your staff have guided us. Guide us now, O God. Make your presence known as we worship you in spirit and in truth. Amen.
We invite you who are here in the sanctuary to pass the peace among us. And for those of you who are with us online this morning, we invite you to use the chat box and share your peace with us all. The peace of Christ be with you.
And also with you.
Well, y'all don't have to leave this area. You can just stay right here with us. Is that all right? And we'd like to invite others to join us here on the stairs this morning for our time with children. Wasn't that lovely? Yeah. Y'all are good, multi-talented. Let's see. I'm gonna sit right here. Is that okay? You got some nice boots.
Thank you.
These boots are sparkling. That's really cool. We have a very special person with us this morning. We know her as Annalise. She's world champion. Right here. So you went to Budapest, Hungary, right? And you and your partner skated on the ice and came back champions. What was that like, being a world champion? What did that feel like?
So it was our first international competition, and no one was really expecting anything from us and the other team that went out. But we were so thankful that we had the opportunity to go out because it was a very fun and exciting experience because actually it was the first time in 66 years that all of the U.S. teams that they had sent out placed, which was really exciting. So we had one team in senior event, one team in junior event, and 2 teams in the novice event. So the novice teams placed 3rd and 1st, the junior team placed 2nd, and the senior team placed 3rd. It was very exciting, and I was very thankful to be able to go with some of my friends who train with us. They don't necessarily compete for the U.S., but they are my friends, and it was a very exciting experience to be surrounded by so many people who were so kind and who helped us through the entire way and who had also been out to international competitions before to help us.
Wow, so you're representing your family, Little River Church, and the United States of America. That's a pretty heavy load, right? But you did it. And you had this one move where you're spinning and then suddenly you're straddling your partner on ice and he's carrying you and you're skating. What is that? I've never done anything like that. You ever done that? What is that like when you're trusting your partner to hold you, stay in rhythm, and get the job done? What was that like for you?
My personal experience is that it does take a while to be able to trust, especially someone you're going to skate with, because they have to lift you and not let you fall. But I am so thankful for my partner Max, because no matter what happens, he will always catch me. And if I almost fall, he will necessarily try to not let me get hurt and him get hurt instead. But he's the best partner, and I'm so thankful for him.
Well, you know, I am a preacher, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes. And one of the things, when you say that, what comes to mind for me is Jesus is always carrying us. God has made a way for us to do incredible things and never drops us, never lets us go. So you're skating on ice, you're depending on Max, but we're all depending on God to carry us through some really tough times. When you look back on that experience in Budapest, what really stood out as a moment when you just weren't quite sure, but you faced it anyway?
Definitely the first day of competition, because I had never seen any of the teams who we were competing against compete before, except for the other American team. And it was a little bit scary because we didn't know what to expect and we didn't know how we were going to place. And it was so exciting when I saw the score, at least for me. I was so excited and I was so proud of how well we had done.
Well, I want all of us to think about those times when we're not sure. We can trust God not to drop us or let us go. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. There are times when maybe there's a test coming up in school, maybe there's something that you're doing for the first time and you just aren't sure. God got your back. God's our Max, right? Holding us, carrying us, and making us do things that we might think twice about. But we have the courage to know that we're not alone. Well, Annalise, thank you. World champion, y'all. World champion. Have a good week, and congratulations. Thank you. Thanks. You know, I get chills when I think we have a world champion in our church. That is so cool. Yeah. Let us pray. Holy God, Scripture tells us that you came to Joseph through an angel, loud and clear. It is impossible for us to miss your presence within, and among us. Scripture also tells us that Joseph listened. He rearranged his life to follow your invitation. God, we long for that, all of that. We long to hear your voice, loud and clear, so it is impossible to miss. We long for invitations to something more, something deeper, and we long to be like Joseph and find the courage to follow. So clean out our ears, brush the dust off our hearts, trace us back to our roots, back to Joseph, who heard you and followed you. With gratitude, we are listening. Amen.
Our Old Testament lesson this morning is from Isaiah chapter 35, verses 1 through 10, the return of the redeemed to Zion. The wilderness and the dry land shall be glad, the desert shall rejoice and blossom. Like the crocus, it shall blossom abundantly and rejoice with joy and singing. The glory of Lebanon shall be given to it, the majesty of Carmel and Sharon. They shall see the glory of the Lord, the majesty of our God. Strengthen the weak hands and make firm the feeble knees. Say to those who are of a fearful heart, be strong, do not fear. Here is your God. He will come with vengeance, with terrible recompense. He will come and save you. Then the eyes of the blind shall be opened, and the ears of the deaf unstopped. Then the lame shall leap like a deer, and the tongue of the speechless sing for joy. For waters shall break forth in the wilderness, and streams in the desert. The burning sand shall become a pool, and the thirsty ground springs of water. The haunt of jackals shall become a swamp. The grass shall become reeds and rushes. A highway shall be there, and it shall be called the Holy Way. The unclean shall not travel on it, but it shall be for God's people. No traveler, not even fools, shall go astray. No lion shall be there, nor shall any ravenous beast come upon it. They shall not be found there, but the redeemed shall walk there. And the ransomed of the Lord shall return and come to Zion with singing. Everlasting joy shall be upon their heads. They shall obtain joy and gladness, and sorrow and sighing shall flee away. Our New Testament lesson is from James chapter 5, verses 7 through 10. Patience in suffering. Be patient, therefore, brothers and sisters, until the coming of the Lord. The farmer waits for the precious crop from the earth, being patient with it until it receives the early and the late rains. You also must be patient. Strengthen your hearts, for the coming of the Lord is near. Brothers and sisters, do not grumble against one another so that you may not be judged. See, the judge is standing at the doors. As an example of suffering and patience, brothers and sisters, take the prophets who spoke in the name of the Lord.
Thank you, Carrie. Will you pray with me? Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O God, my strength and my Redeemer. Amen. To better understand and to put into context the reading from the Epistle of James, it is helpful and possibly disturbing to read the verses that precede what Carrie just read for us. James 5, 1 through 6 has a headline that reads, Warning to Rich Oppressors. Now listen to what it says. Come now, you rich people, weep and wail for the miseries that are coming to you. Your riches have rotted, and your clothes are moth-eaten. Your gold and silver have rusted, and their rust will be evidence against you, and it will eat your flesh like fire. You have laid up treasure during the last days. Listen, the wages of the laborer who mowed your fields, which you kept back by fraud. They cry out, and the cries of the harvester have reached the ears of the Lord of hosts. You have lived on the earth in luxury and pleasure. You have nurtured and nourished your hearts in a day of slaughter. You have condemned and murdered the righteous one who does not resist you. Whoa. What a powerful and frightful opening. What a prelude to a reading that is in stark contrast to what we just heard from Carrie. Yet, that is how the Word of God is delivered even today. Woe to those who live in pleasure, and there is hope for those who suffer. It gives us pause when we think deeply and remember God is just. Do you feel the heartbeat of justice? How can we measure the impact of violence and wrongdoing in an environment that often reduces our capacity to even feel the suffering of the poor and people who are excluded and who are not counted? Thus, the headline of James 5 becomes more than a siren. It is the prophetic proclamation and a warning to rich oppressors. Then there is the transition to the rest of the chapter that points us in a very different direction. The headline may be offsetting as it delves into an apparent contradiction, or at least discomfort. Patience in suffering. It takes a profound and disciplined practice of extreme faithfulness and obedience to God in order to achieve the ability to be patient in the midst of suffering. Just think about that for a moment. Patience in suffering. How can we formulate a compatible set of elements that combines patience with suffering? On the surface, it seems incongruent, incompatible, and perhaps even impossible. Yet through our practice of faithful and humble submission to God and our obedience to God's instruction, the inconceivable becomes doable. We depend on a loving, faithful God to carry us through the wilderness of disappointment, brokenheartedness, and the misery of abandonment. Someone once said, God's grace is sufficient. But in order to truly appreciate that statement or to understand the sentiment, you have to experience a depth of personal disappointment and brokenness. Somewhere along the way, you have to come through a profound period of disappointment and abandonment, but your faith never withers. You do not give up. All you have are your prayers and your faith in God. And that is where James is taking us this morning. Beyond the warmth of the sun and the cloudless sky, there are times when answers do not come easily, if they come at all. And you may wonder, how long, O God, must I suffer? How long must I go through this misery? You wonder, even if as you wander, without any hint of an answer, but you don't give up and you don't give in. Your faith is all that sustains you, and it is the heartbeat of justice that carries you through. Do you know what I'm talking about this morning? Do you feel the strain of having to sustain and hold on even when life is filled with uncertainty and you need and you want assurance that everything is going to be all right? Can you hear Jesus hanging from the cross and crying out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" The unbearable loneliness is hard to perceive unless you have been in such a place. But we don't have to go back to Calvary to see the misery that continues to prevail or to hear the cries and groans of people who have been abandoned. All we have to do is look around us. Look around today and witness the conditions affecting and afflicting too many people who are still crying out today. And once we become aware of conditions that are intolerable and should not exist, once we see, once we hear, once we know what is happening to people, including little children, once we know, that is when we become party to those events. And that is where the heartbeat of justice comes in. That is what makes us accountable and requires us to act and to do what is necessary. That is what calls us to address the prevailing conditions that trap people in the mire of evil and lead to brokenness and abandonment. Once we become aware of injustice, once we know policies and practices result in hurting people, including children, the elderly, those we call the other, and anyone who has been slapped with a label that demotes her humanity, then we are required to intervene. We are required to rise up, and we are required to speak out with the heartbeat of justice. James instructs us to be patient, but not passive, not idle on the sidelines, but patient with the confidence that God is actively guiding our steps and pushing us into the fray of human misery that's caused by injustice. That is why Jesus came into the world and suffered the human experience where lies were told on him and injustice was meted out against him. And even to this very day, the name of Jesus continues to be used in vain with the vulgarity of pious improprieties that harm people all over the world. In the words of some of our elders, God don't like ugly. And what happens, even today, in places identified as churches and houses of worship, is actually ungodly, evil, wrong, and despicable. Silence in the face of such demonic behavior and practice is complicit with gross and unacceptable conduct. We are called to feel the heartbeat of justice, and we are called to stand up and speak out when innocent people are put at risk and placed in harm's way. The heartbeat of justice. And we're called this morning. We are called to open our eyes, to open our ears, to open our minds, to open our hearts, and yes, to open our mouths. We are called, as followers of Christ, to feel the heartbeat of justice. We are called to carry the mantle of faith, hope, and opportunity. People need us. People are crying out because they need us. They need us to stand up. They need us to speak out. They need us to stand with them and on their behalf. These are times that demand our presence in the public square as witnesses and advocates for our sisters and brothers who are suffering right in front of us. Do you feel the heartbeat of justice this morning? Do you feel the heartbeat of justice? Coming to church is insufficient if we do not take the church to the streets where we stand in solidarity with our brothers and sisters who have been rendered invisible and unwanted. We must feel the heartbeat of justice, and we must proclaim good news even in a bad news situation during these times of dark despair. Remember what is written in James chapter 5. Brothers and sisters, do not grumble against one another so that you may not be judged. See, the judge is standing at the door. As an example of suffering and patience, brothers and sisters, take the prophets who spoke in the name of the Lord. Indeed, we call blessed those who showed endurance. You have heard of the endurance of Job, and you have seen the outcome that the Lord brought about. For the Lord is compassionate and merciful. James chapter 5. We have been given quite a charge today. We are assembled this morning in this sanctuary. Some of us are in our homes. We're in person and we're on Zoom. Wherever we are, we have been called out this morning to go into the world, to go into all the world, to bring comfort, hope, and peace to those who suffer. We are called to use our voices and, if necessary, our bodies with the fervent and deep passion so others can feel the heartbeat of justice. Sometimes that means standing in the streets and elevating our voices. Sometimes it means joining hands and opening our mouths on behalf of our sisters and brothers who have been rendered voiceless, invisible, and nameless. We are called to walk the way of Christ. We're called to endure. We're called to feel the pulsation and heartbeat of justice. In James chapter 5, we are reminded again, as an example of suffering and patience, my sisters and brothers, take the prophets who spoke in the name of the Lord. Behold, we consider those blessed who remain steadfast. You have heard of the steadfastness of Job, and you have seen the purpose of the Lord. Now the Lord is compassionate and merciful. We are called out of the world to bring good news to people throughout the world. Let us take the heartbeat of justice and proclaim good news to those who are waiting for us to show up and lift their spirits. Let us feel the heartbeat of justice and proclaim good news to those who are awaiting our arrival. Let us be the heartbeat of justice and surprise the world with our audacity and our vigilance. Can you hear it? Can you feel it? The heartbeat of justice. For this is the gospel. Praise be to God.
Amen. The next hymn is actually a refrain followed by a series of 5 verses. And it's fitting for the season of preparation and waiting for the arrival of the Christ child and the second coming. So I will sing those 5 verses. They are not printed in your programs, but if you turn in your programs to Wait for the Lord, or the tech team brings that slide up for the folks online, we'll sing the refrain once, then I will sing a verse, refrain, verse, refrain. You get the pattern. Total of 6 refrains, so if you don't know it right now, you should know it way too well in 6 passes.
For the Lord, whose day is near. Wait for the Lord, be strong, take heart. Prepare the way for the Lord, make a straight path for God. For the Lord, whose day is near. Wait for the Lord, be strong, take heart. Preparing of the Lord shall be revealed. Wait for the Lord, whose day is near. Wait for the Lord, be strong, take heart. All the earth will see the Lord. Wait for the Lord, whose day is near. Wait for the Lord, Rejoice in the Lord always. God is at hand. Wait for the Lord, whose day is near. Wait for the Lord, be strong, take heart. Seek first the kingdom of God. Seek and you shall find. For the Lord, whose day is near. Wait for the Lord, be strong, take heart.
Good morning. Did anyone listen to Pastor's sermon this morning? It's pretty good, wasn't it? What was it? Heartbeat of justice. That we are the feet, we are the people for those who can't speak or be present for themselves. We have an opportunity this Wednesday. It is the 10th anniversary of Sandy Hook. We've had nothing but more since then. Charlottesville, Chesapeake, in Virginia, in 1 week, and our governor says now is not the time. Respectfully, yeah, now is our time. We will be the heartbeat of justice. 10 o'clock down there'll be a rally at the NRA headquarters. It's about 4 miles from here. If you can be here at 9:30, we will arrange transportation. So I have a couple of prompts. Thank you for that. We're orange. Thank you, Cindy. Whatever, because we're going to be wearing outerwear. I don't have a lot of orange jackets or anything, but yeah, wear orange, whatever you have. We have clipboards for you to sign up, make a plan now to be here. Cindy and I are a little bit somewhat involved in politics, and we know from experience that if you make a plan, you're a lot more apt to carry it out. So we have 2 clipboards, just put your name, contact. It's more for your benefit than for ours. And then if you're going to be able to drive, we'll shuttle from here. Parking can be problematic at the headquarters.
And where will those clipboards be, Nancy?
Those clipboards, Cindy, will be right here. Cindy will have one, and Nancy will have one right here, and then we can also follow into the fellowship hall. But again, it's more for your prompting than for ours. But if you're like me and have a lot on your mind, we appreciate it. We didn't pick this time. We know it's Christmas. We have orange ribbon, so you can tie it on your finger, you can tie it on your car, you can do it on your coat, whatever you need to prompt you to know that we can be, this is our opportunity to be the heartbeat of justice. This has been going on unbridled for too long, and we are not helpless in moving this forward. Thank you. Did you?
Well, the great late John Lewis would say, this is good trouble.
Good trouble, that's right.
And so we're invited to do that. I was a member of the junior NRA growing up. It was a very helpful organization to learn about gun safety and how to use weapons properly. So I'm familiar with the organization, and inshallah, I'll be with you on the front line.
Thank you.
Let us now prepare to bring our offerings. You may place your offering in the plate held by an usher as you leave, or you may also give by mailing a check to the church or by visiting the Donate Online page on our website. Thank you for supporting the ministries, programs, and services of Little River. Let us pray. For the wondrous ways this offering will bless this community, we dedicate these gifts. For the ways it will help us to live out God's mission, we dedicate these gifts. Let these gifts strengthen our call to do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly. Amen.
Let us pray. God of stepfathers and adopted parents, God of angel messengers and newborn kings, we bow our heads today with praise. For who else but you would pick up two ordinary people to be Jesus' parents? And who else but you would be patient enough to lead Mary and Joseph back to one another? And who else but you would assume the best of fragile human hearts? The answer is no one, for you alone are God. You open the door for us to see a new day. Oh God, please help us to be like Joseph, who reminds us that grace is within reach. In a world full of competition, help us to choose celebration. In a world of scarcity, help us to choose abundance. In a world of war and violence, help us to choose peace and grace. In a world of divided lines, help us to choose connection and relationship. In a world of assumptions and stereotypes, help us to choose curiosity and compassion. In our daily striving, help us to choose a better way so we may be transformed. May the story of Joseph rattle something that is loose in us. May the story of Joseph help us to drop the need to be right or to be the best or to have it all figured out. And instead, may it draw us closer to authenticity and youth. May this story of imperfection sow grace into our bones. May we catch glimpses of your love throughout the world. May we shake off the dust of our old selves and live into something new. And may we be a little more like Joseph, but mainly, may we be a little more like you. And now, let us pray together the words Jesus taught us to pray, saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. We come to this table again as we do every Sunday during this time of Advent, and we invite you to join us in this time of Holy Communion, taking the bread that is offered to you and the cup, and using it as a source of remembrance of what Christ did for all of us. For it was on the night of Jesus' betrayal that he took the bread and blessed the bread and broke it and shared it with his disciples and said to them, Eat this, for this is my body, which is broken for you. Eat this in remembrance of me. In the same manner, Jesus took the cup, blessed the wine, poured the wine into the cup, and said, This is my blood, which is shed for you. Drink this in remembrance of me. We continue this tradition this morning. We invite you now to take the bread and eat the body of Christ. Now take the cup and drink the blood of Christ. Let us pray. We thank you, O God, for these elements of bread and wine. Thank you for transferring those elements into your body and your blood. Thank you for your mercy, O God. Thank you for your presence in this moment where we remember the sacrifice of Christ, making life possible for all of us. Help us to be forgiving as you have forgiven us. Help us to be generous as you generously give us life and the elements required to be sustained. We thank you for your love. We thank you for your mercy. We thank you for these, your people. In Jesus' name, amen. My sisters and my brothers, may God bless you and keep you. May God's face shine upon you and be gracious to you. Let us now go into the world with great expectation. Let us go into the world waiting for God's mercy to fill us with grace and love. Let us go into the world waiting for God's child to lead us. Let us go into the world unafraid, unashamed, and unapologetic. Let us go into the world audacious, bodacious, and courageous. Amen.
Amen.